You cannot have an above average return without having an above average risk, but no one considered the risk.
New York City Airbnb ban. When I first saw this headline, I was thinking this can't be real because you're talking one of the biggest cities on the planet.
Yes.
I rarely have had an Airbnb. My first experience was a horrible one, actually. But I looked into it and it is true. What is this all about? Could it happen to people in other cities, in other areas? What are your thoughts?
This is going to happen in other cities and other areas. Get prepared. So Airbnb is the big brand name in the space. What is specifically called is short-term rentals, STRs. But there are essentially approximately 22,000 short-term rental units or Airbnbs in New York City. They received 12,000 nuisance complaints about these Airbnbs. So realize what's happening is these complaints are what's driving this policy. Sort of. Then you dig a little deeper and it's revenue. So then you get the pushback from the hotels who are not getting the bookings. And the city goes, well, wait a second. I'm not getting my tax revenue because they're not staying at a hotel. I'm not getting my occupancy fees because they're not staying at a hotel. So the city's response was, you have to register, you have to get licensed. So in other words, pay me a fee, register on the list. And there was, so they lost 15,000 units overnight. There's 3,250 that have submitted applications to be registered right now. 257 of them have been granted. And so there's 257 people who are now going to play by the rules. But if you don't play by the rules, this carries a $5,000 per violation fine. That's huge. Okay, now that's the maximum side of it. I think it starts at $1,500, but just realize they could fine you up to $5,000 per incident. And this is New York City's attack on getting that tax revenue. Here's what they're doing. They're saying you can't rent out an entire apartment if it's less than 30 days. The reservations are capped at 2 guests. And then, of course, then they brought in the fines. This is a revenue grab and a revenue grab and a revenue grab. And yes, it deals with, 12,000 complaints is a lot. So, you got to think about that. If there was 22,000 units, that means they got complaints on half of them. It's a very large amount. I think here's one thing that people really need to be taking into consideration in regards to Airbnb and short-term rentals. We had a lot of investors who were playing games. Bless you, TikTok and Instagram, for making this super popular. I'm making 50 grand a month on Airbnb. Buy my course below. Let's go. And that's what they're selling, right? And they were doing that. But as soon as that massive momentum in any part of the real estate market starts to shift in a certain direction and people are making outsized returns, realize that outsized returns always come with outsized risk. You cannot have an above average return without having an above average risk, but no one considered the risk. Very simple. If I have an Airbnb, I have to be able to rent it out as a long-term rental and be able to break even. Instead, what has happened is people have overpaid for properties because they could justify it based on the rents because the regulation hadn't happened yet. This regulation is coming to every city and every county because it's a revenue grab. So you need to get prepared. This is not going to cause the foreclosure tsunami. We talked about the lack of the massive Airbnb bust in another video. We'll put a link to it below. But I think a lot of people got caught up in the FOMO and then this emotional justification. Oh, I could go buy a home in Scottsdale, Arizona as a second home, and I can call it an Airbnb so I could justify spending more. That's not investing, that's speculation. That's not a plan. Good investing has goals, a criteria, and a plan, and then a backup plan, and a backup plan to the backup plan, and cash reserves. So yeah, some people are going to get burned. Buyers, there's going to be some good deals in New York. Investors, there's going to be some good deals. You can't have 15,000 units leave the market and not create some good deals. But that's a drop in the bucket. So it's not going to cause like a massive amount of foreclosures. Also, I want to hear from people who are listening, like, how do you feel about this? Should there be bans? Should they have to register? Tell us in the comments below, because I think I'd like to dig into this topic a little bit more. Maybe do a little more video on like how to protect yourself, how to properly price. Because this upheaval, always understand my logic in investing is pretty simple. Anytime there's massive change or upheaval, the other side of that coin is massive opportunity. I don't know exactly what it is just yet, but in that Airbnb space, there will be a bunch of opportunity created because this upheaval is happening everywhere.
One of the positive results for the general population is potentially more rentals. Right?
Yes.
It goes from short-term to long-term rentals. Any thoughts about that? Because that to me seems like a positive, and that's one of the reasons people are reporting on this in support of the people that live in these neighborhoods where so many Airbnbs popped up.
There's not enough Airbnb units to dramatically change the rental market, and not all of these cities and counties will force the change fast enough to help the rental market as a whole. New York City may get some reprieve for a moment, but there's a reason it's some of the highest priced, most expensive real estate, in the United States. I don't think that reprieve will last long. People will have to scramble around. Once again, so that's going to create opportunity, probably on the rental side, probably on the investor side, probably on the home buyer side, but it's going to be a short moment. This hasn't happened everywhere in enough major metros, but it's not such a big problem that it's going to cause rental prices across the US to dramatically change. If you'd like to reach us for any reason, you can click the link above in order to contact us. Also below in the description is a phone number that you can text message. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and click that like button. We appreciate you.